Well, I know the events that we're here to talk about today are incredibly difficult to relive. Your proud service as an election worker took a dramatic turn on the day that Rudy Giuliani publicized a video of you and your mother counting ballots on election night. President Trump, Rudy Giuliani, and others claimed on the basis of this video that you and your mother were somehow involved in a plot to kick out observers, bring suitcases of false ballots for Biden into the arena, and then run them through the machines multiple times. None of that was true, was it?
None of it.
I'd like to show you some of the statements that Rudy Giuliani made in a second hearing before the Georgia state legislators, a week after that video clip from State Farm Arena was first circulated by Mr. Giuliani and President Trump. I want to advise viewers that these statements are completely false and also deeply disturbing.
Tape earlier in the day of Ruby Freeman and Shay Freeman Moss and one other gentleman quite obviously surreptitiously passing around USB ports as if they're vials of heroin or cocaine. I mean, it's obvious to anyone who's a criminal investigator or prosecutor they are engaged in surreptitious illegal activity again that day. And after a week ago, and they're still walking around Georgia lying. They should have been questioned already. Their places of work, their homes should have been searched for evidence of ballots, for evidence of USB ports, for evidence of voter fraud.
That video was from Rudy Giuliani's appearance at a Georgia State Senate hearing on December 10. How did you first become aware that Rudy Giuliani, the president's lawyer, was accusing you and your mother of a crime?
I was at work, like always, and the former chief, Mr. Jones, asked me to come to his office. And when I went to his office, the former director, Mr. Barron, was in there, and they showed me a video on their computer. It was just like a very short clip of us working at State Farm, and it had someone on the video like talking over the video, just saying that we were doing things that we weren't supposed to do, just lying throughout the video. And that's when I first found out about it.
And were there social media posts that they showed you responding to those false claims?
Well, when I saw the video, of course, the first thing that I said was like, why? Why are they doing this? What's going on? And they, just told me that Trump and his allies were not satisfied with the outcome of the election, and they were getting a lot of threats and being harassed online, and asked me, have I been receiving anything, and I need to check on my mom. And I told them, I was like, where have they, where have you been getting these threats? I don't believe I have any. And Mr. Jones told me, like, they're attacking his Facebook, and I don't really use Facebook. I have one, so I went to the Facebook app, and I'm just kind of panicky at this point because this has never happened to me, and my mom is involved, and I'm like her only child. So I'm just asking him, like, well, where are the messages? All I see is the feeds. Like, how do you get to the messages? And he said, it's another icon on your phone that says Messenger. And I went to that icon, and it was just a lot of horrible things there.
And those horrible things, did they include threats?
Yes, a lot of threats, wishing death upon me, telling me that, I'll be in jail with my mother, and saying things like, be glad it's 2020 and not 1920. That's, yeah.
Were a lot of these threats and vile comments racist in nature?
A lot of them were racist. A lot of them were just hateful. But yes, sir.
In one of the videos we just watched, Mr. Giuliani accused you and your mother of passing some sort of USB drive to each other. What was your mom actually handing you on that video?
A ginger mint.
It wasn't just Rudy Giuliani. We heard President Trump make these false allegations.
Don't grab your guns and rush to Georgia. I mean, it's time we protect our women and innocent people. I mean, she's not the only one who was attacked. I'll show you a video of the mother later on. But these are decent folks. You know how precious voting is in Georgia. I mean, for years that we weren't allowed to vote. And these are people, regular folk, and they're trying to do their duty, their American privilege of getting to vote and helping. They go, in part of this piece, they talk about she's been working there 10 years.
Right.
And that was her dedication to help people vote. I mean, it brings you to tears to see somebody like that, what, accused of cocaine and
drugs.
By this,
you know, which is really libel and slander all rolled in one. No evidence of that. To put that sort of information out there to people, just toss it out there, is beyond reckless. And you know, I gotta say, I'm what you call a DCC still, Democratic County Committee. So I'm an elected, I know a lot about people who work those polls and do that sort of work. And they're like the best of your neighbors. You know, they come out oftentimes, it's decent pay. You know, it's not a lot, but they come out there because they want to just be involved in their community. And so to think that someone who just had the aspiration of helping out their community, you know, allocating that time, volunteering to do that, was receiving death threats and all sorts of filthy things in their Facebook inbox is, you know.
and this is in Georgia.
Yeah, and this is in Georgia. But even still, not much really shocked me. In fact, what shocks me the most is that now, because of these hearings, I actually think that there's something that's going to be done about this. I actually think there's going to be repercussions. I had bet people that nothing was going to come of this, that too much time had transpired in which I didn't see anything happening. So now I believe something will happen, you know, because these hearings have been very compelling, to say the least, to have people talk about it. Yeah, and there's more to come.
There's more to come.
So I think you can't help but watch these series of people talking about their experiences. You can't help but to say, no, we got to do something. People have to be prosecuted, including the president, and, you know, just getting a more summary of really what happened, because it's one thing to say, yeah, we know that this happened, but to hear the details, the intricate stories that people experience is really compelling, and it, you know, makes people want to do something. It makes people who thought, oh, yeah, when they see these stories, there's feelings and emotions that come behind them, especially when you see a black poll worker and you know that people were on her doorsteps. It reminds you of a lynching. We've all seen documentaries, all seen stories, so pretty compelling stuff there.
Before we get your comment, I want to run Ruby Freeman, the mother. And she says, I hope this is the piece where she speaks about being American and dedicated to helping us, our civil rights to vote, the most important thing we have and what we fight for, the symbol of democracy. And we're in there fighting the Russians in Ukraine.
Your mother was kind enough to come speak with us earlier. Let's listen to her story in her words.
My name is Ruby Freeman. I've always believed that when God says that he'll make your name great, but this is not the way it was supposed to be. I could have never imagined the events that followed the presidential election 2020. For my entire professional life, I was Lady Ruby. My community in Georgia, where I was born and lived my whole life, knew me as Lady Ruby. I built my own business around that name, LaRuby's Unique Treasures, a pop-up shop catering to ladies with unique fashions. I wore a shirt that proudly proclaimed that I was, and I am, Lady Ruby. Actually, I had that shirt on. I had that shirt in every color. I wore that shirt on Election Day 2020. I haven't worn it since, and I'll never wear it again. Now I won't even introduce myself by my name anymore. I get nervous when I bump into someone I know in the grocery store who says my name. I'm worried about who's listening. I get nervous when I have to give my name for food orders. I'm always concerned of who's around me. I've lost my name, and I've lost my reputation. I've lost my sense of security, all because a group of people, starting with number 45 and his ally, Rudy Giuliani, decided to scapegoat me and my daughter, Shay, to push their own lies about how the presidential election was stolen.
All right, there we go. Now, out of this polling, this is in Fulton County, Georgia, where mostly are all black. And this is what Trump focused on. Now, all these people have quit. Now, what do you think of the results of that's going to be?
Well, that's the danger. Thus far, they have accomplished what they wanted to do
Right.
in terms of setting up for the next election.
Right, exactly.
But the people that work there should come back and take their positions. Ms. Ruby has grounds for a lawsuit, just as you mentioned. Libel, slander. Rudolph Giuliani, who has never been credible in his life. This is a son of a mafia member.
That's right.
And how he ever got in the Justice Department is beyond me, because you can't become a cop and your father was in the mafia. So I don't know how he got in.
Is that true?
Yeah. His father was in the mafia. He was a low-level capo, or whatever they call him. His cousin was gunned down by the FBI in Brooklyn, not far from the house. So you can see the mentality, and when you put him together with Trump, it's that same gangster mentality. And these guys have a habit of picking on weak and women in particular. They need to step up to a real man and see what will happen making statements like that. But Ms. Ruby should have retained an attorney by now, and she should be suing him. Not only Ms. Ruby, but anybody else who was named by Trump as part of this conspiracy. You don't need to wait on the Justice Department to exercise your right to file a litigation against Trump. And this is what people should be doing, and tie him up in so many lawsuits that he can't be thinking about running for anything other than for his life.
Don't you think after seeing this hearing, there's a lot of people who come forward and to her aid?
Well, that's already what Graham suggested is already happening. He's tied up in a lot of
she
lawsuits.
should have seen an attorney long time ago. Last year, she should have seen an attorney.
I'm sure she's got quite a few.
I pray
after
that somebody
seeing that.
down there has come to her. They said yesterday that at the beginning of this, only 10% of Republicans thought that what this committee was doing was credible.
No,
As of yesterday, it's up to 20%.
20.
20%. But
Well,
that's a
watching
100%
Fox.
increase from the beginning of the hearings. Also on Fox News, one of their attorneys, one of their legal analysts said that Trump is will be facing criminal charges. He committed crimes. So for the Attorney General to ask them for their paperwork, legislators don't conduct investigations.
That's right.
They don't. They're not certified to conduct an investigation. And granted, they need to know who involved in who in Congress was involved to deal with them within Congress, whether it's stripping them of everything, having them removed from office, because remember, this was not a casual visit to the Capitol. So they should be charged under the federal code. But the Attorney General, he should have had this information himself. There are over 4,000 FBI agents in the country, all right? There aren't 4,000 people in the Congress. So, and all of the people in the Congress are not even working on this. So the Attorney General should have had this information. He shouldn't be coming to them asking for them for all the voluminous information they got, which tells us, other than the people that he prosecuted out there, the rebel rousers, he wasn't doing anything regarding the government officials.
Well,
and
you
this
don't
is,
know that.
well, let me tell you
He's
something.
not supposed to talk about it anyway.
He's not supposed to talk about it, but if he had a case, he wouldn't be running to them for all their information. I've done cases, I've had the feds come to me, and we discussed this, I had feds come to me to get my records on a case, on a guy that they were working on. I had a drawer this deep of paperwork. I told them, I'm not giving you my information, and you're not talking to my
Who was head of the FBI at the time?
1978. It wasn't J. Edgar Hoover.
It wasn't?
No, not in 78. I don't
When
think
did
it was.
he leave?
I don't know. But, oh, wait a minute. No, that was the New York area director I was thinking of. Anyway, long story short, but they came back with a subpoena from the Southern District ordering me to turn over copies of all of my documents, which I did. I was at the DA's office. We went to the copy unit, and they ran off a few thousand pages of material, and they left. Black agent, white agent, man, you think you're smart. I said, I'm not as dumb as you look, but you got what you wanted. And they left. They came back the next day because they couldn't do anything with the material I gave. I put nobody's name on any of the paperwork. I had known to this investigator. And they said, well, we'll get a subpoena order. I said, well, I'll go to jail. And I told my informants, if anybody comes to you, you don't know anything. And ultimately, you know, I was working not only on one guy, there were 15 people. I told them, if I can go out and sit in bars and hang out 7 days a week till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, you guys should be doing the same thing. But I'm not working to give you a case. And we locked everybody up. We did the indictments. Then we went out and got the warrants, and we locked everybody up. And 3 weeks after I had everybody in custody, preparing for trial, then I called the agents. Oh, by the way, yeah, you know the guy you were talking about? Yeah, he's in custody. I got him. And I hung up the phone. But the Attorney General should have been on this from day one. It's been a year and a half. A year and a half. Emails, text messages, everything should have been gotten. But this Miss Ruby and her daughter, and also the other gentleman from, I think the Attorney General of Georgia, they were threatening him, his daughter, who was a widow. Yes, she has little children.
Exactly.
You know.
Oh, well, most important.
It's horrendous.
Is this, the way they treated Spence. They go over this, how they set up Spence. Spence was supposed to receive false documents about...
Mike Pence?
Oh, man, that was crazy.
I mean,
They
there's some
admitted.
crazy... You owe it to yourself to watch this stuff. There's some crazy stuff going on that we didn't know about.
But you know, Winston, you know really what this is? This is a classic American story. This is Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah.
This is the Republican Party eating itself, turning on itself.
That's
Dr.
it.
Frankenstein created a monster, you know.
Exactly.
You know, it got out of control.
I mean,
and this has been brewing since the first Obama presidency.
Yeah.
That Republican Party has been getting
You had the
more
Tea Party.
peeved off. The Tea Party. Is that the things that they allowed. They were mad at the one McCain because he wouldn't say Obama was
He was a Muslim
and all of this.
Right.
And you know, you could see them just turning up. Then you got the second election again. They've been growing progressively worse as a party and more outrageous each year. And now you see what they're doing to even Republican members.
Well,
Rhinos become a
we
big
as
thing.
black people know what racism
Exactly.
can do to you. I mean,
Yeah.
all that hate of any kind of person, it feeds your system, all this poison. You know, we as blacks, knowing all this, we have to teach people how to be human and have empathy for all humans.
But you know, when they were testifying yesterday, I'm sitting there and I'm saying to myself, I've arrested people for attempted robbery, attempted grand larceny. The guy was talking about, with the ballots and with the phony electors. Now, he said we know it didn't succeed. But he's sitting there declaring that this is what we were trying to do. That is an attempt. That is a crime. He has verbally expressed the fact that their intent and their attempt was to do X. Once it has been determined that you attempted to commit the crime, you should be locked up.
Right.
The fact that you failed in your efforts
It's a moot
doesn't
point.
absolve you from anything. You have attempted to commit the crime, and all of them should have been charged under the federal code.
Right?
This isn't some deep investigation that anybody can't figure this out. And right now, I can't remember his name, the Attorney General, he should be preparing subpoenas. And he should be in court doing his federal grand jury indictments
Well,
and coming back with warrants for these guys.
These hearings are. Trump is on trial now through these hearings, so he's going to have enough. I think the masses are going to turn on him. The masses are going to demand that we do something about Trump. Republican masses.
I don't know about that now. I mean,
The way they
gotta look
treated Spence.
Pence.
Pence.
Yeah.
Well, I call him Spence.
We
Thinking of Spencer
dispensed
for
with
hire.
Pence. He was trying to dispense with Pence.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about that. You know, they wanted to hang, but they wanted to get rid of him so they could go another route and put somebody else in his place.
Right.
To collect these, what was it?
The ballots,
The false, the fake
the fake election ballots for the
election-
Electoral College.
electoral college ballots,
Right.
which were forged, and you see the original.
And that's another thing,
and the
my
fake.
God.
How do they think they could get away with that?
They admitted to the fact that they had forged documents.
Yeah.
And this guy was trying to get the package to Pence. Right there. That's we call that a ground ball in law enforcement.
Really?
We don't have to look for fingerprints and we don't have to no, that's a ground ball. Out of the mouth of babes and fools comes the truth. The man
Exactly.
admitted to the fact. There's nothing for the
who was
Attorney
it?
General to
Senator
do.
Johnson.
Get a warrant and lock him up.
Senator Johnson.
Right.
He was trying to pass off these fake
Federal crime.
documents.
Federal crimes.
You know, part of, in regard to what Winston said about you already showed it's 100% increase, but it's still only 20%.
Right.
So the majority of Republicans, but one of the reasons Fox doesn't cover it, and they're not covering any of this.
They
It's only
covered the second one, I understand.
They said they weren't covering any of it.
Well, the judge blew up. It came over on the banner yesterday on MSNBC that Fox judicial analyst, Judge so-and-so says Trump is guilty of crimes.
Yeah.
So that's the...
Right.
And also the Wall Street Journal, which is also owned by Rupert Murdoch. He owns that
Right.
too.
Right.
So you're getting one thing from Fox and you're getting something else from the Wall Street Journal. Both ends of the pole from the same guy. But people are beginning to
When did he
listen.
buy the Wall Street Journal?
I don't know how many years ago, but unfortunately, it was Colin Powell's son who facilitated Rupert Murdoch's acquisition of Fox Television years ago. All right? When Colin Powell was the Secretary of State. His son facilitated that. The guy was he was not a citizen. He had no right. They
Right.
gave him
He's
some special
Australian.
clearance. Right, he's from Australia.
15 years ago.
He had no right owning a media company in the country.
But it's just like you said, Graham, just like Rudy Giuliani had no business ever being the
mayor or
general
anything
attorney
else.
or the mayor.
Yeah.
And as you said, it's not just police. I mean, I have other friends in law enforcement who couldn't get jobs in law enforcement because their father was accused of, in one case, being a pimp. Something as minor as that. Like, oh, you can't get this job. Like, what that have to do with me? I'm a college graduate, I'm on a clean record, and they told them no. It wasn't police, but it's still another branch of law enforcement, you know. So a lot of times what we know to be the requirement or the protocol, exactly, that don't go for everybody. That's for us. It don't necessarily go for them, you know.
Well, we saw that with Ruby and her daughter. I mean, that was...
You heard about, remember she was on the phone? He's at the door, he's banging at the door, where are the police? Oh God, oh Jesus.
The grandmother.
Yes.
Neither one of these two, the grandmother, who was
I mean,
75, 70, they wouldn't say exactly, but...
they must have had some
late
intel
70s?
because in the South, you know, I went to school in the South. I got a lot of friends in the South. You go knocking on somebody's door like that, you liable to
You
catch
get
a
shot.
bullet. Yeah.
That's right.
So they
But
must
they're
have some
not-
Where are the
intel to
men?
know this is
They're
a
not gun
house that's
toting.
not right.
Where are the men in the South?
They don't-
I mean,
Well,
Wait a minute.
women live longer than men. They might, a husband might be dead, you know, or
Right.
something a long time ago. You know.
And she has a little girl or a little boy she's raising. You know, there are no
Don't we
men
have some
in the
Panthers
household to
down there?
protect them.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, I think that there has been a sort of hold on how African Americans viewing their gun ownership because of the recent indictment and conviction of the NFC leader. Yes, the NFC stands for Not Effing Around Coalition, NFAC. You know, he was, they found him, they said that if you saw, during the pandemic and during the times, there was a lot of images on the internet and social media with Grandmaster Jay, he called himself, armed black militias with guns going, protecting here and there. And they basically said there were some federal agents on a roof and he was talking to them with his gun, and they said he pointed at them, and that was a crime. And now they convicted him of like 9 years. And
Menacing, menacing with a weapon.
Yeah, but he was like, he wasn't pointing it at them in that way. They shined a red light down and
A laser.
laser light, yeah, and it was some craziness. But I think that sort of conviction over something so minor has a lot of African American gun owners more tentative in how they use their firearms because of that. You know.
Yeah.
And usually these sort of things have a little chill effect for at least a
we
little
can't
bit
act
of
like
time.
the Proud Boys, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's an extension of the slave codes. That's
Yeah.
what it really
Yeah.
is, because blacks were not allowed to own firearms. Matter of fact, I have a photograph of the first 8 black police officers in Atlanta in the early, I think it's the 50s. They were not allowed to arrest a white person in Atlanta. They could only patrol in the black neighborhoods
What year are we talking?
in the 50s. They couldn't even have a gun.
wow.
They had no weapons. They were not, as police officers, because they were black, they were not allowed to have a weapon. And that goes back to the slave code. So we need to understand how the only thing that's changed is the date on the calendar. A friend of mine called me early last year or year before. He says, well, Graham, you know, I got my gun permit. I think it's time I'm going to go and I want to get a weapon. And I took him and his wife. We were in Nassau County. They live in Nassau County. And I took them to a shop. And we got there, you know, got a buzz in. The place was packed. It was standing room only. You would have thought that you were in a nightclub. It was
Right.
packed. So I said, well, y'all giving away toilet tissue in here? Remember, they had to run out of toilet tissue.
Right.
So people are laughing. And I get to the counter. The guy said, well, what can I do for you? My buddy needs, oh, yeah, what do you need? I said, my buddy needs a 9, his wife a 380. Okay, so the walls are bare in this gun shop. People are, what's in that box? What's in that box? The stuff was not even put out for display. So his wife says to me, she nudges me, she said, Graham, we're the only black people in here. I said, that's right. I'm glad to see you notice. I said, and I hope you understand what's going on across this country.
But where were you at the time?
In Nassau County.
Oh, that's in Nassau County.
Right. Just over the borderline.
Well, this is not long ago.
No. I said, you need to understand what they are about. All right? We're the only black people in here, and they're buying any and everything they can get. So it was an eye-opener to them. Because when something goes down, a friend of mine pulled over a truck on the Southern State Parkway. Trucks don't belong on the Southern State. And I'm going back about maybe 25 years ago. And the guy tried to one-up on him. The guy was pulling a gun. He shot both occupants in the truck. And they had their Klan robes in the back of the truck. That was in Valley Stream. So understand where you are.
25 years ago.
Right, but unfortunately, we have
that's the
knuckleheads
90s.
running around, shooting babies, shooting each other.
Shooting college kids on
Yeah,
their way
just-
to play basketball home for the
Right.
summer.
They go to the range and they learn how to shoot. And they are prepared for whatever may come about on their property or against their person.
But you know, Graham, I mean, even with that said, there is an increase in African Americans buying guns, as studies have shown. But I'm just saying that even with those Klan type outfits coming on her, it's our usage of them is more judicious. It's just ever since the Mulford Act, you know what I mean, where they basically the Mulford Act, they said cut down on African American gun ownership by half.
Yeah.
You know, and the Mulford Act came out of what the Black Panther Party did out in California, which
Right.
was legal, but they enacted legislation at that time because
I think
it
that
scared
was
them to see black men armed with
And what
guns.
did they do?
Yeah.
We're talking about 67, man.
Yeah,
Right.
67.
And they walked up into the...
Or went to the Capitol.
Reagan was governor.
Right. So the
Everybody
cowboy
was
was,
What did they produce?
there was a new sheriff in
What did they
town.
produce,
Right.
though?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
From
scared them.
that one act. We suffered a lot from that stance.
Yeah.
You know?
My grandfather carried a pistol at all times when he
Well,
was
we're
in
talking
Georgia.
about going to the
And
state
that was in the
capitol
30s.
with
I know,
rifles.
we're not talking
In
about it.
67, that's unheard of, man. That caused a lot
But
of trouble.
wait, did they not go to the Capitol in Minnesota? Did they not go?
Wait, you're talking about white people.
Oh, I'm
that's
sorry. I'm sorry.
We can't
Shut
do
up,
things
Graham,
like
shut up.
that. Fight for our rights.
And threatened the
show-
governor,
Ooh,
threatened to kidnap
kill,
the governor.
and nothing happens.
Well, unfortunately, in that case, those were separate. And you had those people who who threatened the governor, but the ones who got off, it looks like there was a lot of entrapment going on. Way too much leading. When I really looked at that case, which was a little different. Yeah. Like putting people there, telling. I mean, it was FBI agents really blew that case when they started to. I mean, what we read in the papers as a headline appeared to be stuff that they do usually with quote unquote people who are Muslim who they want to entrap and say, oh, you had done this, you had did that, when it was really the agent leading the whole thing.
the
Putting
statement.
the gun, saying like, nah, trying to force a situation, trying to get people to say that when
Leading the witness. They call it leading the
leading,
witness to make a
was set up.
statement.
Yeah.
The same way Trump set up these people at January 6th. That was a setup.
Well, he knew what they would do.
Look, what about these people seeing the light through these hearings? I mean, they got to see the light. I mean, hopefully there's some hope, there's some sanity in all these nuts. 25% of them are real nuts. You
Well,
go
the congressmen and congresswomen who are involved in this,
That's right.
they need to be stripped and removed. It's time for lack of a better word, we need a purge. Okay? We need the government. You had people, Flynn's brother
Yeah.
Yeah.
was a general in Washington when they were trying to get the National Guard.
Yeah.
He held that up. all right?
That's right.
All of these trumpets that are out here, working in all the little crevices and nooks and crannies of the government. And it's the same thing even in the military. Years ago, when my son, about 15 years ago, he said they have discovered that there are numerous white supremacists in the military, and they came in to learn the tactics and the use of the weapons. And they had their tattoos and everything, and they were discharging them. But the fact is they already learned what they came and got what they needed to get.
Yeah.
You see, so because they fail, you know, there's always the notion that, you know, white people don't do anything wrong, you know, they're good. I was working with a guy one day up here on 50th Street. A guy came in the subway, flashed his shield. I said, let's check that guy. He said, Spoon, he's got a shield. Yeah, he's a cop. I said, a badge doesn't make you a police officer. But I'm working with a white guy, wearing plain clothes. I walk over to the guy, hey, buddy, how you doing? I show him my shield. You work up here in the north? Yeah. I said, so I look at my partner. You know, that, yeah, is an automatic indicator.
Yeah.
I said, so what's your tax number? He says, what? As soon as he said what, click, click, you're under arrest. I'm talking police talk. This is not talk that general people would know. He doesn't know what I'm talking about.
Right.
Turns out he had a shield. It belonged to his brother. His brother was in the Bahamas on vacation. This guy was a former correction officer who was fired for bringing drugs into Rikers Island. All right? And then I look at the guy I'm working with. So what were you saying about he showed a shield? Because he's white?
Yeah.
He's right.
Yeah.
Basically.
And a few days later, the guy's brother called me. Oh, what can we do? I said, what do you mean, what can we do? Well, you know, my brother, I said, what you can do is hang up the phone because you're the next one that's going to get locked up.
He was looking for a break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said, your brother's not getting a break and you're about to get locked up. Hang up the phone. So, you know, we have to judge, we have to evaluate people by what they do, not by what they say.
Yeah, right.
I personally have to do the same thing with regard to myself, and we all have to. You know, I said this, but I'm doing this. That's flip-flopping. We got to straighten ourselves out. And the country has never sought to straighten itself out, or to give itself an assessment of what's going on and what needs to be done. It's never happened. But this is a start, a minor start. I'm saying a minor start because there's so much else to deal with. But we'll see where these hearings, the upcoming hearings, there's a plant that was in with the Proud Boys, I understand. So he's supposed to be testifying tomorrow, I think. Yeah.
All right. I just want to take a break and show you a person, the youth huddle at NAN.
Okay.
It's item 1, SMART. This young man came at the youth huddle at the end of the session and came in and said a few words, which I was quite impressed with, because he had God in his heart, you know. And this man is a 27-year-old, and he's had a lot of ventures in growing up black in America. And actually, his mother was a crackhead, and he ventured out as a kid at 5. I won't tell the story yet. And try to get a sandwich for a vial of crack at 5. Well, let's show this first one. Run number 1 on SMART.
Okay, couldn't breathe under there. So my name is Smart. Hi, everybody. I do music, boxing, rapping, motivational speaking, and I just wanted to say something very briefly. I got you right now. Sorry, let me just. This is impromptu, so you know they say don't get ready so you can be, you know, just be ready. All right, so man, every time I ride by this building, you know, this place, I love the energy, and I love what it represents, and I love the potential that we have for change, right? And it starts with you guys. It starts with the young generation, right? And it starts with cultivating a mindset, okay? So very briefly, this is going to take me 3 minutes. Mindset. Once you start to reprogram your subconscious mind, you change everything externally, everything on the outside. How you think creates how you feel. How you feel becomes an emotion. That emotion becomes a vibration. That vibration becomes a magnet that attracts things to you. Okay? So when we learn to cultivate our thoughts in a way that will bring the change that we want to see, then we will see change happen. Okay? Now, I don't know about you guys, but I believe in God. No, you know, because sometimes people, you know, look, I've been homeless. My mother smoked crack, you know, been in and out of the system. I own multiple businesses now. And the reason I was able to do that was because my relationship with God, right? And I think a lot of times we give man more credit than necessary, right? So I'm not going to ask man, you know, for change. I'm going to ask God for change, right? So through that asking, I realized this. We are not in the times of advocation. We are in the times of application, okay? We've been advocating for over 400 years. You know, the good brother Martin Luther King, you know, Malcolm X, you know, we've had tremendous, great black leadership. But in my opinion, I feel like what can be, and I'm stuttering on purpose because I don't want to say anything disrespectful to the brothers because they paved the way for me. What I want to add to it is this: we have to have goals and deadlines. And we have to have application. We have to have an actual plan for change. So I'm not going to say, hey, stop killing us. I'm going to create the leadership in the community that lowers the violence in the community, right? So a lot of the young kids, they don't have nowhere to go. You know, when I was young, we had woodshop. We had cooking class, we had trades, right? So there's been a very systematic approach to remove programs out of the schools in the hood, and it's displaced youth. Kids are gonna be mischievous. Kids are gonna get into things, but if they have nowhere to go, then how can they be productive in the community? So this is why I love these type of conversations, right? I'm gonna go back to the first point I made. I'm not gonna be long-winded, young guys, okay? I know you guys want to get back to Rick and Morty and Roblox. Pick a Rick, it's my guy. Now, how you think creates how you feel. How you feel becomes an emotion. That emotion becomes a vibration. That vibration becomes a magnet that attracts things to you. One of the things that we need in the community, right on time, man, see? One of the things we need in the community is, right, we need a business program. Okay, we need a business program. So all the young kids, I'm going to give you my Instagram. It's the smart guy _ THE smart guy _ the smart guy _ Follow me. I do a lot of talking about how to create streams of income, okay, for the young kids. And I don't know how frequent you guys have these type of groups, but it's very, very important. Right, so I'm going to pull up, I'm telling you, right, because we have to have goals and deadlines.
Get this young man on Skype, or maybe perhaps we'll get him in the studio next week. I misplaced his card. I don't know how I did that. I'll find it as soon as I get home.
You could have got him on the smart guy _ on Instagram.
Yeah. See, I needed to call you.
Yeah.
But
He's
I had
making
somebody,
sense.
some Nan coming in. But hopefully we can get him in the studio next week. And it's interesting, this kid's outlook. it's really somebody that's been through the fire, man. And he's 27, and he tells different parts of how he got his GED in prison. He went to prison for 5 years and on a gun rap. And we need to study our youth and how to get out of this gang banging. Because on 139th Street and Fifth Avenue, this past weekend, there was a young basketball player who I was trying to get somebody from NAN to call in and talk about it. But that was messed up too. Communications. I was supposed to get a Skype in today on that. But if you're listening, you should have called in.
Yeah.
But it was a gathering over the weekend, and this 21-year-old had so much potential in basketball. He could have been in the NBA. He was shot in a crowd at 12:30 at night. Moved over to 139th Street and Fifth Avenue, and that area is very dark. And there was 150 shots rang out.
It was 150?
150 shots.
Really?
So it was a gang war in the middle of this.
Well,
This one person, a good guy in the middle of all this, is killed. And there were 8 other people wounded, but no fatalities except for this one individual. And he was a superstar in the crowd.
I didn't know either.
That's a lot of shooting.
That's a battle.
No, that's
Shoot, we're lucky to have only one person dead.
Right.
that's it.
You know.
So, we got to deal with our own self-interest.
Yeah.
And something we got to face, how to deal with guns.
See, this is where we're really killing ourselves
That's it.
with the notion that snitches get stitches. When I was working, if you were in my office, I'd tell you straight. There was we had a shootout in East New York, and one guy got away, but we got 2. And the sergeant said, "All right, Spoon, juice him." Now, we go to school for interrogations. We go to school for all kinds of stuff that I'm not even going to tell you about. So I put you in this room, I put you in that room. And we're going to play a game called Beat the Clock. You remember Bud Collyer, back in the 50s, had a TV show called Beat the Clock?
Right.
It was a game show.
Yeah.
But I said, we're going to play Beat the Clock. I have a stopwatch. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and you're going to give me the answers, starting with your boy's name that got away. Now, the DA doesn't send you away. I send you away. You see, I'm the chef. The DA is the waiter. I put this whole case together. So don't worry about the DA. You need to worry about me. Because what recommendation I make is what's going to go down in court. You work with me, I'll cut you a break. You see, but your boy's in the other room, and what I'm telling you, I'm going to tell him. And whoever gives me all the information I'm looking for first gets the deal. We're playing Beat the Clock. Snitches don't get stitches? No, they get less time. Boom, what's your boy's name? Bye-bye. I say, all right, that's your time. I go to the next room. You see this time here? I'm going to ask you, I went through the same thing. If you beat the time, you're going to get a deal. And trust me, it works every time. But ladies and gentlemen, if you're not part of the crime, you're not a snitch.
There it is.
Wake up. Wake up. These guys are out here doing stuff that ultimately will come to your door or to the door of a relative of yours sooner or later. These guys with the guns, they need to be taken off the street. Parents, like Eric said in the news conference, you need to check your kid's room. If you're in a housing project and you have the heat vent, if the screws on the heat vent have been tampered with and you can see that the paint has been chipped away, that means the vent was unscrewed and something is back there. Get a screwdriver and take it out.
Okay.
Go in your kid's closet. Go in the closet, turn around and look up above the door and see what's stashed there. Your kids don't have any privacy. It's your apartment.
Right.
They don't pay any rent. They ain't got no rights to privacy. Your kids are coming home with things that you did not buy them or they did not work for. You need to sit down and get some information.
Right.
Parents are not parenting their children. And And don't be afraid, oh, they're going to call the police on me. If your kid comes and says, I'm going to call the police, you failed from the jump. All right? I had 2 kids, and I told them, you're not calling anybody. Because when you make the call, you're not coming back in here. And you're not leaving here with anything because you don't own anything. But folks, we got to wake up. It's time. We have a massive toilet bowl that's overflowing. It's time to flush the toilet.
Right.
The brothers that don't want to be a part of the community need to be out of the community. It's just that simple. Babies are being shot. Old people are being shot. All kinds of people are being victimized. People shot in the fast food place and in the bodega. It has to stop.
But you know, Graham, in this, I truly think when they say they don't have no suspects, when something like this happens, I mean, I don't think it's a matter of people know who did it and they not giving them up. Even though maybe if someone did, they didn't. I think a lot of times when it's stuff, they genuinely don't know. It's sort of like a melee when people hear shots going off. Any shooting starts. You might hear about things the day after, but at the time, people are trying to get up out of there as soon as they hear a gunshot. And they're not looking to see who's shooting, what's the cause of this. They're trying to get home safe once that starts.
But if
that's
somebody
granted.
shoots somebody you know, you're going to find out who did it, right?
If you have the resource to do that. I mean, everybody. I don't think the detective work is that easy, depending on who you are.
Well, what
you
about
know?
this case that I'm talking about? 150 shots. The only person killed was
It's the
innocent
basketball
star
player.
of the show.
Yeah.
Now, you don't think about all those people that were in that involvement would turn in somebody?
Yeah,
When the good guys
if they
killed?
knew, if they knew,
Well, somebody knows.
Definitely.
the perpetrators know, and the people
Yeah.
involved. But it seems a lot of the victims are just ordinary people like you and I, and they don't really know
Because
that
he's not a
culture.
gang. He
Right,
wasn't a
he's not,
gangbanger.
right.
The people he was with,
Right,
his
was not,
sister.
right.
What do you do
You
about
know.
things like that?
Well, we truly rely upon intelligence coming from the community.
Right?
We truly do.
That's the way it used to be.
And there are techniques that we have. You know, I had a homicide case. I got a dead body with a bullet. That's all I got to work with. All right? And in 24 hours, I had a name. I had a name of one of 2 people. I got a woman is telling me about a conversation she overheard. As the guys are going down the street, she's sitting in her window and overhearing the conversation. So I know which direction they walked. I know what the conversation was about. You see? And as I said, within 24 hours, I had a name. And the guy was from the other south end of Brooklyn, and the shooting was in Bed-Stuy. You know, and I went to the boy's house, and I told his mother, listen, I want to talk to your son. Tell him don't think about going to his father's house. Tell him don't go to his grandmother's house. Tell him to stay out of his friend's hoopty that he's been riding around with. And number 2, be in my office by 6 o'clock.
But that's Brooklyn in what year?
90,
90.
95, 95,
90.
all right?
That's
But the thing is, you
There
know,
was serious crime going on in
oh,
95.
it was worse in the 70s.
Yeah.
Much worse in the 70s.
Okay.
My partner got shot in the face. 3 guys from my class got shot. One got shot with a shotgun. And that's the reason why police officers wear bulletproof vests, because he had one on. He was the first cop in New York to wear a bulletproof vest. He was a transit cop. But, you know, in the technique, part of our technique is the phone call. When a person can call us and give us a tip, sometimes we may get 300 tips. They may be nothing, but we follow every tip that we get.
You still doing that today?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, we keep a log of the calls. So-and-so, unidentified caller said XYZ ABC. It has to be followed up on.
So if there's a crime in Harlem, we don't have the proper people, even with the new mayor, things changing at all?
If people are not picking up the phone to give the information, I was looking for a guy that's bashed in heads of people and cut people's skulls open, 4 in 2 days. And a woman called me from Far Rockaway to tell me the name of the guy.
Yes.
June 10th?
Oh, Juneteenth. Oh, yeah. We speaking of outdoor event. We have, that's a virtual event. We can talk about 3 different events. 2 outdoor, 1 virtual.
You have the SD card on
Yes.
the still, the end of everything? Did you find that? We put the still up for Saturday and Sunday, if you have it.
So that's one thing. As I said, the first Saturday event is virtual. There's always safety because everybody's in their home. The other 2 are at locations, one in Brooklyn and one in the Bronx, and they're going to be safe events. They're film screenings. I mean, look, nothing is 100%, but, but
safe,
a lot of
right?
times when you have a youth events often have more tragedies associated with them. And these are just coming. So this one here, that's Sunday.
26.
That's Sunday. That's going to be at the Bronx. So the last time I was here, I spoke to you guys about the debut of the film, Jazz Pioneers of the Black is Beautiful movement. Well, the filmmaker, Louise Dente, her film is a finalist in the Cannes Film Festival, which is huge. It's got all the way to be a finalist, and it's already received 4 Best Documentary Awards, 1 with the Moscow Film Fest, 1 with the Calcutta, 1 with the Independent Film Festival, and 1 with California Film. So that's Sunday, June 26th in the Bronx. We're going to have a number of elected officials there also for the screening, and we're going to have Felipe Luciano on as one of our panelists there in the Bronx. Yeah, he's working on a book, but he's going to join us for this event. Nope, he's still working on it. And that's the one on Sunday.
You have the Saturday one?
All right.
I guess we don't have it.
Man, Felipe. I haven't seen him in a long time.
Yeah,
He
he's
came to
on the
visit
West
me when
Coast.
I was in the hospital. He's on the West Coast now?
Yeah, well, just working on the book. This is the virtual event. It's another organization I work with, Upama.
Bernard
and
White.
we're having the great Dr. Joe Horn, Don Rojas, Bernard White's going to hold. Ava Tinney is not going to be able to make it. She's had an emergency, but it's going to be a virtual panel and discussion. We're going to be talking about Juneteenth's history and the Black diasporan efforts to obtain recompense for enslavement. That means, in other words, the case for reparations. So we're tying the 2 in, even though Juneteenth just passed. Last Sunday, we celebrated it nationally on Monday, and we're going to talk about it now. That's the next step, basically, being reparations.
And we got
a panel
10
of
seconds.
experts.
And for Manhattan, stay tuned for more. We're going to get this young man, the smart guy, underslash, was it?
Yeah,
smart
small
guy.
guy underslash.
And we're going to have him here. I promise.
I'll reach out if you don't find it. I'll reach out to him on Instagram.
Okay?
And
see what we can
and see
do.
what happens. Oh, hey, we at 3. That's only 2. Well, that same event Sunday is also in Brooklyn at Sister's Place.
Oh,
on
that's by me.
456 Nostrand Avenue. There's also going to be a film screening. A screening of the film at Sister's Place in Brooklyn, but the time would be at 6 p.m. So it's going to air back to back, and it's doing quite well.
Hopefully we can have some-
Finalists at Cannes. One more step, it'll be going to the Oscars.
That's right. The con is
And
serious.
you had the first interview with it right here, discussing it. You got bragging
Power
rights,
to
you
the
and Graham.
The God in me loves the God in you. Stay tuned for more information and direction on how to vote. Vote. We'll see how serious
I
it
voted
is,
early
how
today.
powerful it is.